Hi, everyone, and welcome back. I want to expand a little bit more on my previous video, what every divine feminine needs to learn, which is regulating your nervous system. And this applies not only to the divine feminines, but anyone, because once you're able to really learn to respond to life, that is the key to not overreacting. And once you're on this spiritual journey that your divine masculine came in to awaken you, you begin to understand how important it is to not react and learn to respond to the 3D, to what's going on in your life. And many things will happen on this journey that you're on, and everyone will have completely different experiences. And you will absolutely go through the dark night of the soul and ego death. And that's not easy to go through at all. You begin to understand that the person that you used to be doesn't resonate any longer, and you question everything about your life. And that is part of letting go of your old identity. But what happens is that we're so used to the old identity and the old patterns because they feel safe. Even though we know that the old patterns don't serve us, they still feel safe and we gravitate towards the old. But what this journey is teaching you is that letting go of the old is really important and begin to step into the new you. And all of that is a process. And there are many things that can happen, including ascension symptoms and physical symptoms as we absorb the new light codes. And we will see that the 3D is going to trigger you. So triggers is part of life. The more that you can learn to work with triggers, the easier life becomes. This is something that I still work on myself, although I don't get triggered the way I used to. But I can say for most of my life, up until 2020, actually it was 2019, the end of 2019, when my twin flame awakening started, that's when I really started to learn how to deal with triggers. And it's so important to learn how to respond and become the observer. But of course, I didn't learn that right away. My first year was complete shambles because I was trying to figure out what was going on in this whole connection with my person. And I didn't learn how to deal with triggers until a few years ago after my awakening with my divine masculine. And it's still something I still work on because we're going to get triggered. But what's key is responding to triggers, responding to what is happening around you that's bringing up something inside of you, your core wounds. And as much as we think that we have released all the core wounds, we still get triggered. But the key is learning what to do with the triggers and continuing to release the layers of that onion, right? Continue to allow the core wounds to come to the surface and not run from them, but acknowledge the emotions, acknowledge what you are feeling, and do your best to not judge it. Because here's the thing, the past is the past. The past doesn't exist anymore. The future doesn't exist. So the only thing that exists is the current moment, the present moment. And I know that you've heard the terminology, the present moment. And I talk about this in many of my videos. The present moment is all you have. When we react to circumstances, we're giving our power away. And what's important is to catch it right away, where we don't allow the nervous system to stay unbalanced. And that's easy to do. And I can even speak for myself. I've done that for most of my life, where my nervous system was unbalanced. I didn't really work on it because I was so busy in the 3D, right? It wasn't until my divine masculine came in, which was my biggest awakening. And I've had other awakenings before in my lifetime, but nothing absolutely nothing compared to this one. And that's why I'm doing a follow-up video. I want to stress how important it is for the Divine Feminines and anyone that is listening to this to really learn how to regulate your nervous system and become the observer. Let's just say, for example, that you get triggered. And I'll just use a random example as to what could happen, right? Of course, anything could happen. Let's just say that you went shopping somewhere and you come back to your car and you notice that your car has a dent in it. And obviously that wasn't there before. And you see this dent in your car, and all of a sudden you get triggered and you get angry and you might be in shock, right? So the first thing that you're going to do is probably look around to see if there is someone or somebody saw something, right? Then you realize that there's no one around and you have this dent on your car. So you might go back into the store. You might want to report it to maybe the last place that you were shopping, maybe pull out the cameras and see who might have hit your car, right? But you're going to get triggered. Your frustration level is going to go up. But you know, at this point, your nervous system is dysregulated because of you being triggered, right? And that's a normal reaction to be triggered. It wouldn't be uncommon. What you can do and how to regulate this at that moment would be to take a few deep breaths, right? Because obviously you're not going to be able to do yoga. You're not going to be able to meditate, right? When you're outside and there are others around. So a common one that you could use would be to take some deep breaths, right? And allow yourself to calm. And this is so important, where you don't allow your nervous system to take over, where you end up in a panic attack and then your whole day has been ruined because of a trigger that occurred. And looking at the positive part right now, so what could be positive about having a dent in your car and there's no one there that is claiming that, right? But looking at it as the bridge of incidents and not even trying to rationalize it as to why it happened, but knowing that it happened for your highest good. So why would that happen for your highest good? And we don't need to understand why everything happens, only to understand that whatever is happening is the bridge of incidents that is teaching you something. So whatever is happening for you in your life, just know that it's happening for your highest good. Now you could be saying to me, well, Annalisa, what if somebody in my family died? How could that be happening for my highest good? And all of these are lessons. All of these situations that happens around us is happening to teach us to let go of control. There is so much that we have no control over. The only thing that you have control over is your emotions, and that is learning to deal with triggers. So the more that you can learn to regulate yourself, bring yourself to an area of calmness in whatever way that is. And again, I mentioned in my first video, there are many ways that you can regulate your nervous system. And I'm just going to point out a few. Visualizing good emotions, take deep breaths, putting cold water on your face, meditation, going out in nature, mindfulness, using all your senses to be present. So anything like that is going to help you to calm yourself. And it's also going to depend where you're at and what environment is around you, right? Depending on what strategy you're going to use to regulate your nervous system. But being the observer of the trigger. And so what do I mean by being the observer? So taking yourself out of that picture, that situation, and being the third party looking at that situation as an objective party that is non-judgmental, that is not criticizing what's going on, but being the objective party. And if you can learn to do that, that's really going to help with potential triggers in your life. Now, all of this is something that takes time to learn, right? It's not something that automatically just happens. Well, I'm just going to learn how to deal with triggers. No, it's a process. So allow yourself grace, because you may not remember to do that, right? When you do get triggered, all the power is in your hands. Everything that is happening, you have control over on how you respond to situations. So whether it's your divine masculine that's triggering you, or your family members, your coworkers, whatever is going on in your life, you have the control. You have the power to say, okay, this is happening. Let me take a deep breath. Let me relax right now and regulate the nervous system. Or let me go to the sink and put some cold water on my face to really balance my nervous system. Because it's obviously much more functional when you're able to manage your emotions. And this is a key part in life, but especially being on a spiritual path, because there's going to be so much that's going to happen. And when you go through ego death, that's not easy. It's not easy when you start to question everything about your life. And you know you have to make changes. You know that certain things don't resonate. And that's where that fear creeps up, right? It's not easy to let go of fear because, like I mentioned in the beginning, you're so used to a comfort zone. You're used to what was, and now you're being asked to make changes. You're being asked to step into the newer version of yourself, which is your authentic version, right? That is your true nature, is your authentic self. So that means letting go of the old and stepping into the new. And I know that's not easy, and it's all a process. So the more that you regulate your nervous system and find ways to stay in a calm state of being, the more that you're learning to be present. And that is the key to this whole spiritual path, is learning to be present, not ruminating about everything that's happened in the past. You cannot change the past. And we don't know what the future brings. None of us knows, right? As psychic as we are, and many of us are very psychic and have spiritual gifts, we don't know what tomorrow brings, which can make us very anxious. So learning to be present, staying in the present moment, and learning to deal with triggers in a calming fashion is going to be the key to everything. So when you're getting triggered, just remember, everything is in your hands. You have the power. You have everything that you need to be able to regulate your nervous system. And whatever other treatments you may be on from a doctor, then continue, of course, whatever regimen you're on, right? But just know that being on a spiritual path, you have access to other holistic ways to deal with your emotions and your triggers. And all your thoughts are going to make a difference, right? The more that we say this is a hard journey, and yes, I've used that word many times, it absolutely can be hard, and I would be lying if I said it wasn't hard. But once you learn the concepts and once you understand what this journey is, it doesn't have to be hard. The more that you say it's hard, that's what you're going to get. You're going to manifest more hard, right? The more that you have positive thoughts, the more positivity that's going to flow in your life. And I truly believe that you can enjoy the journey as you are going through the journey, and it doesn't have to be hard. Once you understand that you're on an awakening path and everything is happening for your highest good, then keep the concept of positivity and aligning closer to your authentic self. So I hope this part 2 has helped all of you. And I'm going to close it off there. I'm sending you so much love.